What's up, guys? So today we're going to talk a little bit about uh, line voltage, line output converters, um, line drivers, how to hook up your amplifier in unusual and weird ways to accomplish very specific things. Now, for my amplifier today, I am using my Diamond HEX 600.4, and this is so this is the highest end amp I have, and it's not installed anything right now. But on this amplifier, you've got 4 potential channel inputs and one set of outputs. So yeah, okay, and you got a switch over here, which I'll fix this on camera in a minute. But you have a switch over here which allows you to change it from 2 channels in to 4 channels in, back and forth. Got this is the piece of equipment you have to work with, right? Potential of 4 channels or 2 channels in, and you got line outs. And then you got 4 individual speakers here, your power and ground and your remote, fusing, then your controls up here. And the controls up here, you have a gain for the front and a gain for the rear. So you can set those up separately. You got clip lights for front and rear. You got your bass boosts. You got your frequency cutoff for high pass and low pass. This switch changes it from high pass to low pass to flat. And you got a frequency cutoff, so you can control a high pass or low pass and the sensitivity of it, the range. It's pretty good setup. This is what you have to work with, okay? So now, what do you have to put in here? Let's say you have a factory stereo system. You'll notice there's not any high-level inputs here. There's nowhere to put a high-level input here. This amp doesn't have that ability. Whoa, so what are we going to do? Okay, how do we get RCAs into here from my factory stereo? One way to solve the problem is to use a high-level to line-level output converter. And what that does is it takes the speaker signals coming out of your stereo and turns them into a couple of these guys, so that you can your RCAs up here and run to this amp. In that case, you would probably use the 2-channel inputs. You would set this to 2 channels, then just plug it into 2 channels, and you would have 4 channels of output. So here's the problem again. Well, okay, so I've got two coming out, 2 going in, 4 going out. How can I control what they're doing, right? How can I control a fade and all that stuff? How can I control these individually? Because now I'm just using 2 channels, right? Well, again, there's multiple ways of solving this problem. There are some 4-channel LOCs, I'm sure, but let's assume you don't have that. You got a 2-channel LOC, so you've got 2 channels coming in, and you got to figure out a way to be able to control it. That's where something like this can come in. Now, this little guy right here, as you can see, has a sub-level, a volume, has a fader front to rear, and it has a 7-band EQ. And that front to rear fader allows it to do exactly that. So with this, you could run from your high-level converter with your 2 cables into the main end right here. You go into the main end, and then you run your rear left and right and your front left and right to here. So now you've got 4 RCAs going in here, And you can control that with this fader. So this allows you to fade front to back or to fade top to bottom. If you're using this 4-channel to power, say, 2 tweeters and 2 mids, you could, in theory, control the fade between the 2 of them with that fader knob. And then you could control the crossover points on the amplifier. So you can set your fronts up, in this case, with doors being your mids, and then your tweeters are here. So you've got 4 channels. 2 of them are tweeters, 2 of them are mids. You come into here, and on the front, you would set this to high pass filter, and you would set it to like, well, now, see, you don't know exactly where you're setting it. But assuming you can figure that out, you would set this to probably somewhere in a 3,000, 4,000 hertz cutoff. And that would allow it to play everything above 4,000 hertz to the tweeters. And on the rear, you would set that to the low pass, and then you would set that sucker down, actually, if you're playing mid, you'd probably still set this to high pass. And you'd set it down to like 80 or 90 hertz. If you were going to play a subwoofer with 2 of these channels, then you would set it to low pass and high pass. But the point is, you can control those separately here. And then you can control the fade between them with that. This would work in that regard. If you have a DSP, it's even better, because the DSP can control everything in every way, and hooks up the same way. So you run your 2 channels out of your stereo from your line output converter into the DSP, and it would give you all the channels that you would need to run all your amplifiers, and you can control it all in the DSP. And the DSP also acts as a line driver. Now, what is a line driver? Most head units and line output converters and other devices that provide a signal to start the signal going into your amplifiers provide, 1 to 4 volts, somewhere in that range. The better stuff usually provides around 4 volts. When I say 4 volts, that's at, the highest of volume that's not clipping. It'll drop down to infinitely small, of course, when you turn it down. But when you crank the volume up to where you're going to play your maximum output, it should be at least 4 volts, not clipping, running into your amplifier. Well, a lot of source units don't provide that much. So one way around that problem is to use, of course, a DSP. A DSP can give you a much higher output voltage. So you send in 2 volts or whatever in the DSP, and it can boost that voltage up to where when it goes into your amplifier, it's at 7 or 8 volts, which is a much better condition for your amplifier to be in, because now it has a stronger signal. And when you're transmitting a stronger signal from the DSP to the amplifier, it also has less of a tendency to pick up noise, because the signal is very hot. Any noise that it picks up is going to be very low, and therefore reducing your noise floor, which is a good thing. Also, you're not having to crank the gain up on the amplifier, which means it's operating in its sweet spot. It's not going to have as much of a tendency to be adding dirt and noise to the signal when it comes out. So it's a win-win-win all the way across the board. Well, a DSP can do that, but something like this can do it too. This is a line driver. This thing kicks up the voltage to 9 volts on its full tilt output, and you control that amount of voltage by changing the volume on this. So it acts kind of like a gain, but this can be used as a complete volume control. So if you've got, especially if you've got something like an old stereo where it's maybe got push button volumes, or maybe the volume control doesn't work right, or whatever, this can fix a lot of problems. It is a physical solution that can solve problems, because you can have your volume, your fader, and your EQ and your sub level all in one piece. And you can sort out all those problems with this device. You can even run it. It's got an aux input as well. So if you use this aux in, which has its own gains controls for the aux in, you could run, say, you're running a video source in the car and you want to run it into your system, and your stereo doesn't have any options for that. It's an old, an old factory unit or whatever. You can run your output, your audio output from your video source into this aux in, adjust the gain to where it's the right amount of volume as it goes out, and then run the sound into your stereo amplifiers without even having the functionality in your car radio. So a line driver, something like this, is actually very useful in a lot of ways. It can solve lots of problems. Now, there's no replacement for having the right gear, but there are solutions to solving problems if you know what to look for. An aftermarket head unit is going to be the best way to go to get everything rolling in the right direction, but you're still liable to not have that high of a output on your RCAs. If you've got like a 1 volt or whatever coming out of there, and you feed that into this guy, you're going to have to crank the gain up really high to get the power right. And that's going to mean a potential for introducing noise, background floor noise, humming and buzzing and stuff like that. And also it's going to be putting the circuitry in the amplifier at the very edge of its operating ability. So it's going to have to, it's not going to have much wiggle room for anything. It's more likely to have clipping issues here and there and other things. So anytime you can increase the voltage up to the higher end of what the amp will take, the overall better the end result is going to be as far as getting clean sound out of your amplifier. As long as these guys don't introduce noise, and some of them might, as long as you've got one that stays nice and clean, then they're an excellent solution for a whole lot of problems. You can take that little low voltage, bump it up to like 8, 9 volts, and now you could turn the gains on the amplifier all the way down, most likely, or at least almost all the way down, and it'll be just kicking it right out, really sounding amazing. Getting that voltage up, an input voltage up on your amplifier, is always a plus. However, the amplifier has limitations, so know your equipment's limitations. Most amplifiers, unless they say they have a high voltage input, if they're just, if you're just got some RCAs, you don't know, it's usually going to be somewhere around 8 or 9 volts is usually going to be the very top of what they'll want to take. So you want to be putting out about probably 7 or 8 volts in that scenario. But in some of the amplifiers that have special high or low powered inputs, that they're designed to run off of a factory head unit's speaker output power to go into the RCAs, and you can switch it to that high level input. And in those cases, you could use the line drivers all day long. Not that you necessarily need one. Now, here's the other scenario. This one is an old school solution that we've developed ways to solve modern times, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway. If you've got an amplifier that, especially an amplifier that's got possibly a DSP built into it, or it's just got really good controls, or it's like a 2-channel in, 8-channel out, or 6-channel out, some kind of, nice little 8-channel amplifier that's fairly low powered. You can use that as a line driver. So you can run your left and right channels in, and then your speaker level outs, you can run as high level inputs to other amplifiers and get all the power and all the control, and also raise the voltage up to a high enough voltage to get good clean signal. This has been done in the past. Like I said, this is an old school trick. It's been done for years. There are better ways to do it now. But if you've got the equipment laying around and you want to do something that's really cool, You'll be amazed at the difference it makes. Whenever you get the voltage up going into your amplifiers, when you get that voltage up to that 7, 8, 9 volts, man, the difference in what it sounds like is night and day. The dynamic power, the dynamic range of the sound is significantly increased. The little kick drums and bass notes and snare hits and stuff that will have much more impact, much more feeling and life to them. It's like I said, it's like a whole different stereo system. Whenever you're running a very low voltage input to your amps, you're going to get a very flat, kind of a dead, thin sound. But when you give it lots of voltage, you're going to be able to really get all that life in there. So you guys are trying to solve that problem. You do it by getting your voltage up. However you get the voltage up. Anyway, I hope this helps you guys. Peace.